5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Good morning.
Morning. Today is Tuesday morning for you guys. Monday
evening.
early evening for us.
Mm-hmm.
You had a long day today?
I did. I worked a few extra hours. It was nice.
I was working on a painting all day, and then the last 2 or 3 hours I was on the laptop working on our stuff, church stuff.
Yeah, ministry stuff.
And I just put the computer away.
And I came home. You know what I've been doing, you guys? I've been like, I told David, right now is the time that we got to budget and be really smart, so I'm like being really weird. I know it's really weird, but if you have leftover beans, I put them in the freezer. If you have leftover stuff, I throw it in the freezer, chop it up, do what you got to do, and just throw it in the freezer so you can use it for another time and not let nothing go to waste, because I don't want to be running to the store so often. So every single time these boys make sandwiches, they leave the edges. You do too, huh? You don't like the edges?
I'd rather not have the edges.
Everybody leaves the edges. Nobody likes the edges. But everybody loves bread pudding. So I allowed all the edges to gather, and then I just took all the edges right now.
The edges of the loaf.
Yeah, all the edges of the loaves. And I grabbed them all, and I just put them all in together, and I just, right now, I'm making a bread pudding. So, they're not going to know the difference. I'm sure they're going to love it, and they're going to be like, oh, this is good. But I'm like, yeah, I made it out of all the edges that you boys left. So that's what I'm making them for dessert.
Cool.
Yeah, but now you know.
I wouldn't have cared where it came from.
Yeah? Cool. All right, good.
I don't have a problem with edges. Oh, if there's 2 slices of normal bread, I'd rather have that, but I'll eat an edge. I don't care.
I don't know. Kids are picky though, man. They are. Amen. But I just told him, I said, is there any way we can do the video earlier today?
Yeah.
Oh, I can rest a little bit.
I appreciate, guys, all of you that text that number yesterday.
Yeah. It was a lot, huh?
Yeah. I think we have 38 people so far. And it allows us to have a connection database with you guys. And it's really cool. I'm not going to explain the whole thing, but it's really, really cool. But if you haven't, why not?
Yeah. 209-400-9725 and text HORC, which stands for House Arrest Church. That's easy. 209-400-9725. And
once you text the word HORC to that number, it immediately sends you a text back with a link. Click on that link, open it up, and it's just going to ask for your name, email, and phone number. And then that sends it to us. And we have all kinds of stuff of ways that we're going to connect with you. And so, yeah, come on.
Come on.
Come on. Come on.
Come on.
It's really cool. I'm really excited about this program. I'm super excited about it. And I want you to be a part of it.
He's been working really hard at it, guys. I gotta hand it to you though, honey. You guys, he has been working so hard. I sat down and I told him yesterday, I'm really proud of you because, we do different things. I stay focused on other things. But man, this man here has been so focused on doing whatever he can do to just make things easier and to give us a better experience for us, And I think that's really cool because he puts so much time and thought and effort into doing that, because I'd be lost. Technically, I would be lost because a lot of the times you have to pay media, you have to pay people to do this stuff and everything. And that's a luxury that we can't afford. House arrest, it's a luxury we can't afford. So I praise God for him being so technical savvy. And, you have other people that have been calling him and asking him on how to do things and everything. And I praise God that he's somebody that can actually guide other people and help other people at the same time, because he's not selfish. He's like, yeah, absolutely. Let me help you. Let me walk you through it. Let me show you how to do this, because it's not something for us to hoard, you know?
Yeah.
I love that he sits here and he'll sit here for like an hour or two and help somebody through something so that they too can get through it. So that they too can learn how to publish their book, how they too can learn how to do something. And if they don't know how to do it, he does it for them, you know? And I love that about him. So guys, you know, he's doing this for us so that we can have a better experience and a better opportunity to learn without any, just being able to just sit down and being able to learn and, you know, just to grow God's kingdom. So I'm grateful.
You know, I think that we've been blessed as House of Rest Church because we've had online services from the beginning of House of Rest.
Yeah.
So it wasn't a new thing for us when the pandemic hit. But when we couldn't have people in the church building, it made me sit and rethink it and say, okay, I know we try to get the best phones that we can get to live stream. You know, all these years, I've always tried getting whatever phone was newest because I wanted the best to live stream when I did Facebook Live or YouTube Live and whatnot. But it made me go back and say, okay, how can I make it better? What can I do? You know,
to our capacity, of course.
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah, because, well, here's the thing. When it first started, the pandemic, I looked into, okay, how do I live stream? How do I do it? And like these companies were selling these boxes that you connect to, and they start at $1,200 and like $100 a month. And I'm like, yeah, we're gonna stick to our phones, right? So I'm like, that's not even an option for us, you know. And it was like these media boxes, and it showed all these big churches had them, and I'm like, oh, for like maybe half a day, I was kind of showing you,
yeah.
But I'm like, yeah, that ain't gonna happen. So and then I let a couple of weeks go by, and it was bugging me. It was bugging me because during worship, like, I turned the phone up to the screen.
I know, me too.
You know, and I'm just like, and then we're over here zooming in, trying to, and I'm like, this is so ghetto. You know what I mean? Like, you know.
I know, that would be me, you guys tilting it on Bible study so you guys could see whatever he was showing.
It was like secretly killing me, right? Because I'm like, okay, something's got to budge. I can't afford $1,200, but this whole showing the screen thing has got to go. So I dove deeper and dove deeper. And
but you ended up getting, remember, you ended up going a little bit further. You got that webcam.
Yeah.
But then the webcam required you to get a microphone and this and that. Yeah. And then you returned it literally, 3 weeks, right? Or 2 weeks right before this whole pandemic thing happened. And then he's like, oh man, we're going to need that webcam back. And then he went back to go look for
Everybody sold out.
And they were sold out.
It said Best Buy, 250-mile radius sold out. Target was not even available.
I'm like, Walmart. Man, we should have never returned it because we needed it.
But then, come to find out, we don't even need a webcam either. Mm-mm. So, guys, it got so technical. I'm not going to bore you guys. But I was able to afford a microphone because the software we're using to upload was free. You know,
but it took a lot of you learning it, though.
It took a lot of learning how to stream, how to link, how to do this and all that. And that basically that $1,200 box, it just takes the brains out of it. And I'm like, no, I just rather learn it and not pay somebody $1,200.
Yeah.
So we're able to learn out of the laptop, to stream to Facebook, to YouTube, to have all those little graphics going around, this and that. That little House of Rest logo that goes, you know, all that stuff.
And he gets excited over these little things,
I do
you guys.
get excited.
It's exciting. It is.
You know, and having that going on because I'm like, I want to give you guys something better, you know? And then we figured out this phone number thing as a way to connect with people.
Yeah, and I told him he has to change the color a little bit because we kind of look a little purplish on Sunday.
I know. I look like Grimace from McDonald's. So what's up with that?
I told him we look so weird. What the heck? We look all pink and purple. But they're all things that can be taken care of, and we're gonna fix them as we go. And guess what? You guys just get to be a part of it, and you guys get to just deal with it with us. And we're gonna grow together, and we're gonna learn together, and we're gonna go through the whole process together. So, you guys ready to go through that with us?
Then
No, and then.
You know how I'm sure you guys see the sermons. It's a little bit choppy sometimes.
Yeah.
So I'm just like, okay, now I got to deal with this issue. What's the problem? So I did a speed test on their internet at the church, and it was kind of slow. So this is a blessing because I called their internet company, and I told them, do you guys have a plan that's faster? You know?
Well, wait. You found out also because we have our cameras. We have cameras that take care of our security cameras too. And we didn't realize that was pulling, that was taking some of the Wi-Fi and all of that.
Well, that's 3 cameras.
Yeah, and it's
pulling
3 cameras.
Wi-Fi.
And we didn't realize that.
HD cameras.
So we didn't know that, guys. Yeah. So let him continue telling you.
You know how the sermons are choppy on Sunday because I'm trying to stream a live sermon to you guys. At the same time, we have 3 Wi-Fi cameras streaming full HD into using the Wi-Fi. So it's bogging it down. So I called the internet company today and I'm like, do you guys have a plan, something bigger? And they're like, well, yeah, your plan is the lowest plan, but the next plan, is $70 more. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, come on. So I was like, listen, I didn't say, oh my gosh, come on. But I said, wow. I said, we're a church. And as you know, we can't have service. Our whole livelihood of our church depends on the internet. And she goes, oh, so, and she goes, well, I'll tell you what, we'll give you a 20% off, 20% discount, which basically what we're paying now, it adds $20.
Yeah.
$20 more, and it doubles the speed of our internet. So I am praying that there's going to be no more choppiness or nothing anymore. And I was so grateful to them. They were like, because of what we're all going through, and we understand that you're a church, and we know the situation with churches, so we want to be able to somehow help.
Yeah, and that was a blessing.
Yeah.
So no more Mr. Flash. You know how he's here one moment, and then all of a sudden he looks like he's like this? Because I told him it looks like you're doing these flash moves, It looks so weird. And I told him...
hopefully it stops.
Yeah, so
we don't know
we're praying that it's going to stop, you guys. But like I said, learning process. Let's learn together, yeah?
So the best part, no $1,200 box was needed.
Mm-hmm.
When there's a will, there's a way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I've done that my whole life, guys. When I used to record records, I remember I rented a studio a couple times. I'm like, yeah, I can't afford this. So I learned to play instruments. I learned to record. I learned to engineer. I had to have somebody do my artwork for my cover. That guy charged like $1,000. I'm like, yeah, that ain't gonna work. So I got Photoshop and learned Photoshop on my own. Everything I've ever done, and you too, everything. I'm just like, when you can't afford to throw money around, you learn to do
it on your own.
It's
your DIY, do it yourself.
Yeah.
Just like that. And that was pretty brilliant, whoever came up with that, the do it yourself website that's out there, because it's so true. You got to do it yourself. This whole week we're actually going to start kind of just like working out of the church this whole week, because there's a lot of little projects that we never got to finish. And I told David what I'm going to do is because there's a little, it's still not fully an office yet, because we still kind of left the office sort of under construction, but it's going to give us a chance now for me to be able to go in there and sit in the desk that's in there and do my work that I do from my work and take it with me over there. So David can get a few things done, and maybe my son can go help. And I'll take my boys, man, and we're gonna try to finish up some of the stuff that we haven't done. Yeah. We never got to finish the cafe, you guys. We got things that we got to get done there at the church. I have a lot of administration to do, so I can get my hours done. And as soon as I'm done, I'm already there, so I can get going and get done the things at the church. And David can get done with a lot of the projects that we need to do. So we're going to take this time and we're going to start being productive, so that when our church family comes home, man, at least they're going to be like, at least something was done during this time. At least they're going to come home to something exciting and something being done. So, we're looking forward to it. Keep us in prayer, guys.
One more thing I forgot is we have a brother that has a YouTube channel. And he recently got a lot of equipment so he can have a really nice, high quality channel. Because you guys know, when the quality sounds bad or looks bad, it's easier just to keep it moving on YouTube. And even though he's had his YouTube channel, he's never quite like said, you know what, I'm going to really invest into this. And he recently did his first video with his new equipment. It looks amazing.
Good
sounds
stuff.
great.
Yeah.
So please subscribe to his channel. It's Greg Chacon. Greg is spelled, Greg, and then Chacon. And, you subscribe to his channel, check it out, leave a comment, and tell him that we sent you guys over there. And really good stuff. I think his first video he did is the proof of why Jesus is God, something like that. And that's the video that he used the new equipment on. Really good stuff. It's like a 12-minute, it's not a devotional. It's more of a commentary. I'm not sure what he calls it.
This is Greg.
It's Greg Chacon.
Yeah. So, you got it?
Yeah, I got it right here, guys. So, definitely he has some really good stuff, you guys, What happened?
Play it sideways.
Sideways?
Oh, I thought you were going to play it.
No, I'm not. I just want them to see what his thing looks like. So, there you go. Greg Chacon. Okay, so subscribe to him, guys.
All right. Well, we're going to kind of go back to Acts. I wanted to talk. We don't talk about the women of the Bible very much on here. And I was like, Sharon, I said, what's a woman that we've never mentioned? It's like, Ruth is always mentioned. Mary, the mother of Jesus, is always mentioned. Who have we never mentioned? And she said, Priscilla. I said, oh, that's a good one. So we're going to talk about a woman named Priscilla in the book of Acts. So Priscilla, right here, actually, let's read it first and then we'll talk about it. Acts chapter 18, verse 1. It says, after these things, Paul departed from Athens and went to Corinth. Corinth, where the Corinthian church, 1 Corinthians, 2 Corinthians. So Paul departed from Athens and went to Corinth, and he found a Jew named Aquila, born in Pontus, who had recently come from Italy with his wife Priscilla, because Claudius had commanded all the Jews to depart from Rome, and he came to them. So because he was of the same trade, he stayed with them and worked, for by occupation they were tent makers. So this couple lived in Italy, and at this time there was persecution in Rome, and they wanted all the Jews. Not so much, it wasn't that much of a Christian persecution, it was a Jewish against the Jews. So they kicked all the Jews out of Rome, and Aquila and Priscilla were part of that group. So they left, and they were believers. They were Christians, this couple. And they got along really good with Paul because Paul made tents for a living. Paul didn't like living off of people.
Yeah.
So Paul was like, man, I don't want your money. I got my own job. I'll make my own tents. That way, if I don't take your money, you can't tell me what to do, basically. So he was a tent maker, and this wonderful, beautiful couple took Paul in. They took him in, and so Paul, I already know, just knowing how Paul is, he poured into both of them.
Yeah.
Okay. So then we're going to forward a few verses, and we're going to see when else they were mentioned. In 18:18, actually. It says this. So Paul still remained a good while. Then he took leave of the brethren and sailed for Syria. And Priscilla and Aquila were with him. He had his hair cut off at Cenchrea, for he had taken a vow. So he stayed with them for a long time. And after a moment, Paul always kept it moving. Paul was like, he would start churches. He was an evangelist. He was
He kept it moving.
Yeah, you know, so he sees this couple. I'm sure he was very close to them, and he went his way. So by this time, Paul had poured so much into this couple. But, you know, what I find interesting, guys, is that it mentioned her name first. This is a big deal because even nowadays, people don't say, hey, meet Sharon and David Rocha. They'll say, oh, this is David and Sharon Rocha. They always put the husband first.
Yeah.
So that's kind of a little footnote there. It's interesting that, remember Luke wrote the book of Acts. It's just interesting, just a little footnote. I'm not saying there's anything to it. I'm just saying it's interesting that it said he sailed for Syria and Priscilla and Aquila were with him. You know, so that's just something that jumps out at me. But anyways, then this is the part I really want to get to. This is interesting. In verse 24, we're still in chapter 18. But it says here, now a certain Jew named Apollos, born at Alexandria. Alexandria was in Egypt. Well, let's keep reading. An eloquent man and mighty in the scriptures came to Ephesus. So before we get there, do you want to read in the message all this that we've read before we get to that part? 18:1 and 2?
Yeah. After Athens, Paul went to Corinth. That is where he discovered Aquila, a Jew born in Pontus, and his wife Priscilla. They had just arrived from Italy, part of the general expulsion of Jews from Rome ordered by Claudius. Paul moved in with them, and they worked together at their common trade of tent making. But every Sabbath he was at the meeting place doing his best to convince both Jews and Greeks about Jesus.
Okay, so
and now we're going to skip over to 18. Mm-hmm. Paul stayed a while longer in Corinth, but then it was time to take leave of his friends. Saying his goodbyes, he sailed for Syria. Priscilla and Aquila with him. Before boarding the ship in the harbor town of Cenchrea, he had his head shaved as part of a vow he had taken. They landed in Ephesus, where Priscilla and Aquila got off and stayed. Paul left the ship briefly to go to the meeting place and preach to the Jews. They wanted him to stay longer, but he said he couldn't. But after saying goodbye, he promised, I'll be back, God willing. From Ephesus, he sailed to Caesarea. He greeted the church there, and then he went on to Antioch, completing the journey. After spending a considerable time with the Antioch Christians, Paul set off again for Galatia and Phrygia, retracing his old tracks, one town after another, putting fresh heart into the disciples.
One more verse.
A man named Apollos came to Ephesus. He was a Jew born in Alexandria, Egypt, and a terrific speaker, eloquent and powerful in his preaching of the scriptures.
Okay. So Paul went to Ephesus. That's where we get the book Ephesians. Mm-hmm. Remember, that's the book actually we talked about maturity. You know, so he goes to Ephesus, and Priscilla and Aquila stay there. And Paul kept moving, though. He kept on. But while he was there, this man named Apollos was born in Alexandria. And it says he was an eloquent man and mighty in the scriptures. So here comes Apollos.
Yeah.
Mighty in the scriptures. He was a Jew, not even from Israel, from Alexandria. Why does that jump out? Because that is like saying somebody came from a huge university. Alexandria was the biggest library in the world at that time.
Yeah.
Very educated people came out of there. It'd be like somebody from Harvard, you know, or something like that. So that's why this guy came. He had book smarts. But check out what happens next. Verse 25. This man had been instructed in the way of the Lord, and being fervent in spirit, he spoke and taught accurately the things of the Lord, though he only knew about the baptism of John. So he began to speak boldly in the synagogue. When Aquila and Priscilla heard him, they took him aside and explained to him the way of God more accurately.
He was well educated in the way of the master and fiery in enthusiasm. Apollos was accurate in everything he taught about Jesus up to a point, but he only went as far as the baptism of John. He preached with power in the meeting place. When Priscilla and Aquila heard him, they took him aside and told him the rest of the story.
Yeah. Verse 27 now and 28. And when he desired to cross to Achai, or Achai, I'm not sure how to say it, the brethren wrote, exhorting the disciples to receive him. And when he arrived, he greatly helped those who had believed through grace. For he vigorously refuted the Jews publicly, showing from the scriptures that Jesus is the Christ.
When Apollos decided to go on to Achaia province and Ephesian, friends gave their blessing and wrote a letter of recommendation for him, urging the disciples there to welcome him with open arms. The welcome paid off. Apollos turned out to be a great help to those who had become believers through God's immense generosity. He was particularly effective in public debate with the Jews as he brought out proof after convincing proof from the scriptures that Jesus was in fact God's Messiah.
You know, I really love this couple because, number one, Apollos was a very educated man. He was a Jewish man. Jewish men always put women second class. That was just the custom and tradition. That's just the way it was. Whether we like it or not, it was what it was. You know, so the very fact that he comes eloquent, high standards, plaques on the wall if he had a wall, and he meets these tent makers, simple people. And the fact that they heard him preach, they're like, wow, this guy can speak. And it doesn't say that Aquila, the husband, pulled him to the side. It says they pulled him to the side. So what does that tell us? That tells us that she poured into a man also.
Yeah.
She was able to, I love the way it says that even though he spoke eloquently, and even though he knew the things of God, even though he was fervent in spirit, he only knew up to the baptism of John. He didn't know about the crucifixion. He didn't, remember, the Gospels weren't written yet. So what they did is they're like, listen, man, there's something better than John. And she did her part of pouring into this man. This man then went completely dismantling the works of the enemy. Why? Because a husband and a wife teamed together and poured into him.
I love the fact where it says he was particularly effective in public debate with the Jews as he brought out proof after convincing proof. That shows that that's somebody that has, oh my God, the word just left me.
Influence?
No, not just influence. Oh my God. Confidence.
Oh yeah. Apollos?
Yes.
Yeah.
Somebody with confidence, because if you don't have the confidence, if you have the confidence, then you're not going to be effective in anything. And I think it's so important that, I think a lot of the times people can mistake confidence for vainness, because a lot of people think like, oh my God, that person's vain. But see, a person can have confidence and not be vain, Being confident is very, very important.
Yeah.
But there's a fine line between confidence and being prideful.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's important that you understand that it's a good thing to be confident in who you are, confident in what you do. Because remember, we have spoken about this before, is everything that you do it with all excellence. You give it with all excellence, because we have to give forth our best in everything that we do. Because when we do that, it builds the confidence, because we've done our best to bring that forth.
Yeah,
I smell that. I don't want it to burn.
Oh, go check it.
Yeah, do you want to stop it for a minute?
Be right back. All right, we're back. Was it ready?
Yep, I took it out of the oven.
Oh, cool.
Sorry, guys, I had to pull the bread pudding out of the oven.
So, what we were talking about was, I just like the teamwork. I've always liked that. I remember even reading that with Brother Johnny in Atwater, and I just saw the teamwork, and I remember thinking like man, will I find somebody like that? Somebody that because to me it was beautiful, because there's hardly, I don't know if there's any other couple in the Bible that both of them were just pushing forward for the gospel, and that stood out to me. That stood out to me at that time, and like you said too, now back to Apollos, the confidence that he had. Mm-hmm. That's the one thing, guys or girls, women, men, is that you have to know that you know this stuff, because if you aren't convinced yourself, you're not going to convince anyone else.
But I believe that confidence is only built through the encouragement of the other, because if you constantly have the other person tearing down, then it's hard to build. And you gotta constantly build one another. It's like a teeter-totter, it really is. You guys remember the teeter-totters? Oh, those are so old school. If you don't know what a teeter-totter is, you better look it up. Teeter-totter, you have your teeter-totter, you have your center, and it goes up and down. When you have a teeter-totter, whether it be spiritual, whether it be physical, whether it be in any way, it has to have a balance. And when one begins to come down, it takes the weight of the other to bring it back and to balance it. And it's so important that even in the things of God and the things, mentally, emotionally, physically, in every way, that we're like a teeter-totter, that we become that encouragement, so that that confidence level stays built, that sense of security, that spiritual security, that, like you talk about, being equally yoked in every single way. It's a teeter-totter. So we need to be very careful that we are the ones that keep that leveled at all time, because having confidence is important to have, because this world can be a very cruel world. And, God has placed us here for a time just like this, but we can't go out there and be conquerors if we're constantly going to be knocked down and not being able to get back up.
Yeah.
And we got to be able to get back up and dust ourselves off. But see, if our confident level, if our sense of security is so low, then how are we going to feel good enough to get back up? So we need to be sure that that person that is closest to us, the people that are closest to us, can build us up.
Yeah.
Are people that are builders, not people that are terrors.
Exactly.
Amen. Do I build you up, babe?
Mm-hmm.
Babe, do I build you up?
Yes. Did you gonna beat me up? I'm gonna tell my mom.
She's watching.
I know. So, kind of off subject of Priscilla, but kind of what you're saying is, this is like, I'm talking about confidence now. Mm-hmm. Confidence. I think a lot of people do like to hear the sermons I preach. Because it's convincing. You know why? Because I really believe the stuff I'm saying. I believe it.
You better believe it.
I believe it with all of my heart, all of my soul, with everything. You know what I mean? And it's like, because of that, until you're at that point, you can't effectively preach or teach. And it's like, you have to find it within yourself. You know what I mean? It's like, to me, that's the only way. Like, I struggled, honestly, at first, when I first pastored a church. Like, I probably wouldn't have opened House of Rest when I did, now knowing what I know now.
Yeah.
I was just out of prison. I didn't know how to be anything. I didn't know how to be a good dad, because I was just out. I didn't know how to be anything. You know what I mean? So there was like certain subjects that I felt weird talking about. I didn't even have a steady job, So how could I talk about finances? I couldn't even see my kids, so how could I talk about parenting? And it's like...
And then you weren't married, so how were you going to talk about, for a while you didn't,
Exactly, you know what I mean? So once all that mess happened too, before I met you.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of things that I think that people, they enjoyed the sermons I did back then, but there was a lot of things I didn't touch because I didn't feel right preaching something I hadn't fixed in my own life yet. But it's like, I have my children in my life now. I have my wife here with me now. I work, I do whatever. If I got to drive, lift, or paint paintings or whatever it is, I'm going to bring food into this house and I'm going to make sure these bills are paid. So now it's like all these gaps that I couldn't preach from. And, I'm just like, they're filled now. So now it's like, all right, God, I'm ready. Let's do this thing. And I'm like a bull every Sunday, like when you go to the rodeo and they have that gate with the bull, like,
you're going to break my floor, babe.
It's okay. You know how that, when it kicks open, that bull takes off? That's what happens on Sundays, guys.
Dang. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to hold one of those red things like that in front of you. That's what I'm going to do, guys. I'm going to get one of those red things and put it right in front.
But it's like, when you read this word, man, you got to make it such a part of you, and that way, I'm trying to bring it back to context, guys. I'm trying to wrap this thing around. But that's why it says about them, because of this couple that poured into him, because of that, he began to speak boldly in the synagogue. When Aquila and Priscilla heard him, they took him aside, explained to him the way of God more accurately. I don't know why, but I feel like they taught him identity here. That's what I truly believe. They're like, man, we need to set you aside. You need to learn some things, boy.
Let me teach you something.
Yeah, you're going to learn today.
Yeah.
Then in 27, it says, and when he desired to cross to Achaia, I'm rereading what I read earlier, the brethren wrote, exhorting the disciples to receive him. So Aquila, Priscilla, they sent a letter with him saying, hey, receive this guy. This guy's on fire, basically. To me, real quick, another footnote. To me, this is exactly why ordination happens. Because they're like,
it's a recognition.
It's a recognition. Like, hey guys, the church here in Ephesus, we love Apollos.
Yes,
he's with us. So it's like a ordination or a license, pastoral license. That's kind of what it is,
That's what we should start doing. Just sending letters with the person that we,
handwritten.
Yeah, we're gonna handwrite the letter.
So it says, exhorting the disciples to receive him, and when he arrived, Apollos, he greatly helped those who had believed through grace. For he vigorously refuted the Jews publicly, showing from the scriptures that Jesus is the Christ. So Apollos was able to put in words the stuff the other people couldn't, because he was educated in Alexandria.
Eloquent
speech. And now he had identity.
Yeah.
He was just ready. He was like a bull, ready.
Whew.
All right, guys. So with that, we pray that you have a blessed day. Make sure you call that number. What's the number again?
You better learn it.
I do.
You do? You're going to marry me?
209 400 9725.
Yeah.
And text the word HORC to that number.
Yep. You got it right. What is it again?
209 400 9725.
You got it, you guys. Good job. All right.
All right, guys.
We love you guys. See you later.
And I'm hydrating in case you were worried.
And that's been my oven beeping all this time. I forgot to take the timer off.
Oh, all right. Bye.
Bye.